Alright y'all, I wanted to go over today the importance of practice, why I practice, why I think you should practice, how often I practice, and why I think that it should be an important part of riding and that you should be doing it regularly. On top of that, I'll also be going into a parking lot doing some of the maneuvers that I practice regularly, so you can follow along with that. I won't be going into specifics of how to do a lot of these movements, but just so you can see how I regularly practice in the parking lot. Another thing I want to go over too is not just practicing on a bike, but just practicing in general with whatever you want to be good at, and whether you're practicing a skill or you're practicing something for your emotional health, and the reason that I think practicing is very important. Alright, let's go. Alright y'all, well, I am on my way to the parking lot that I'm going to practice at, or a series of parking lots that I'm going to practice at. I do want to talk about first prepping yourself to practice on a motorcycle. So obviously first, it doesn't matter if you're in your neighborhood, it doesn't matter if you're going to be staying on your driveway, it doesn't matter if you're going to be staying in like the immediate area and you won't be traveling a lot, but always wear all your gear, all the gear that you typically would wear for a ride. That's important for a lot of reasons. You want to stay safe, of course, and also so that you're wearing what you would be wearing on a regular ride. If you will always be wearing, which I think you should be, an armor jacket, but then you go practice every day with just a t-shirt on, you might notice as soon as you put that jacket on, it feels a little bit different. So you want to practice the way you'll be actually riding. And so for me, that includes I'm wearing, of course, my full face helmet, my and because it's cold, all my cold weather gear, and everything that I'd typically be wearing, this is helpful. During the summer when I was practicing, I wasn't wearing these big thick gloves, I wasn't wearing a jacket liner under here, I wasn't wearing this neck gaiter. So now that I'm practicing, in which today is just 40 degrees exactly, I'm in cold weather gear, and this is how I'm going to be riding around in weather like this. So you want to wear all your gear. The thing is too with practicing is you want to be consistent. You don't want to just forego practice because you feel like you don't need to that day, and then you end up skipping a day of practice. I would never suggest that for anything that you're trying to become proficient at. Something about me that y'all probably don't know is that I actually play the piano. My minor, when I was doing my undergrad at George Mason University, is actually in piano performance, so I play the piano a lot, and it's one of those things that I would never been able to do well at, to perform the concerts that I performed at, or the you know, pass my piano exams or any of that, if I just was not very consistent with my practice. It had to be very regular. So same thing with biking. Don't think because you're doing a 50-mile commute to work that's practice. There's something very different about actually getting out there and learning how your bike maneuvers, learning the limits of your bike, rather than just your very regular 30, 40, 50-mile commute every day, because that's easy. You know what's hard is when you're in that situation where you need to practice. If you've seen some of my previous videos, a lot of those I take from when I'm actually practicing. When I'm practicing how to emergency brake, when I'm practicing how to turn and corner and all those different types of things that I'm practicing, it comes from those things. You know, it's not just, these are practical things that I actually do. Alright, so pulling into this parking lot. This is one of the parking lots I practice regularly at, and I'm used to this parking lot, so I'll go around, I'll vary it, I'll change it up, I'll make sure that I am getting good quality practice, because I hear a lot of people who say, oh, I practice this much, I practice that much. You know, at the end of the day, they're probably not practicing as much as they actually think they are, or as much as they should be. So they need to be practicing a lot. Practice is important. It's one of those things too. So like I mentioned, my undergrad is in, my minor in my undergrad was in music. My major was psychology. And psychology is another one of those things that you're going to want to, you got to think about regularly. You got to, if you really want to reframe the way you think and the way you're framing things in your mind, you want to practice that safe mental habits, safe, you know, emotional habits. Those are things you got to work at. practicing in a general sense is so important that you can't just start something and then forget it and think that that's enough. Okay, you got to be continuously practicing and working towards these things so that you can be good at it. I was about to try U-turn there, but then I lost my train of thought. So real quick, let me show you this right turn right here. This right turn right here, before I started practicing, I would do it a lot of times way wide like this. I would end up way over here, and I had to do it over and over again till I could get that U-turn right, which is, it's a tight right turn, but at the end of the day it's actually ended up more of a U-turn. So let me show you that again. So, and it was little by little. It wasn't like day one all of a sudden I was able to make this turn super tight, and I still miss it sometimes now. I still gotta think about what I gotta do to make sure I can make this turn nice and tight like that, so that I'm in one lane and I'm not switching lanes over there. Before, I couldn't do a U-turn in this single lane right here. I used to have to go all the way to the other side of the white lines. Now, you know, if I'm doing a U-turn here, see, I still ended up wide because I'm not thinking about it. I didn't turn my head and eyes. I didn't do everything I would typically do. But these are things I'm working on. I told you, like, I just started riding this summer, and I am doing this regularly to make sure that I'm working on the things that I have to work on to be a better rider. I might do little things like I have this weird fear of turning my handlebars, so sometimes I'll be in here and I'll just do like little zigzags on my handlebars. Make sure that I'm comfortable with the way it feels to turn the handlebars, you know. I used to not be able to hug this whole right turn on this island right here, or going left on it and stay tight on it. I used to have an issue with getting the bike low enough to do something proper, but and now again, so on the left side, I used to not be comfortable, you know, staying close to the left here, getting my handlebars turned, keeping it nice and tight, and getting in there, right? You want to be able to accomplish all those tasks so that you're regularly practicing and you're working at it. And that goes along, again, like with everything in your life. If you're working on your mental health or your relationships or your anything like that, you want to make sure that you're always doing it in a healthy way. And if it's something that you really care about, you have to be persistent, you have to be consistent, you have to be always working on it. It can't be something that you give up on after a little bit. These are things that you have to really think about and continually do. I'm the same way with every task in my life, that, you know, I want to get better at my relationships. I want to be a little bit more caring and, you know, be different than I was, you know, when I first got back from Afghanistan, which was, I was having a lot of issues adjusting again, you know. But I don't want to be like that. I want to be a better person, and that comes a lot with working on myself regularly. There's a lot of negative things, you know, you can fall into those things, which again, I've mentioned a lot of my videos before, where you want everything to just be a certain way and it doesn't go your way. And that's been causing so many issues in society today, where people are just upset about the most little things when there's no reason to be, you know. You should just work on yourself in that sense, you know. Work on yourself in the sense that you want to be able to you know, be positive about a plethora of things. If you work every day to be upset and feel, you know, oppressed or feel like that in a certain way, if that's what you're practicing daily, that's what you're going to experience daily. You're not gonna experience good things. You're not gonna experience positive emotions. You're not gonna feel empowered and strong. You're gonna feel impressed and weak and blame everything on this negativity and all this other stuff, you know. So same thing with biking. If you're working only on doing straight lines, going, you know, your 50-mile commute to work, if I did that, I would never have been able to do that. That's probably the best U-turn I've done since we've been on this video. You know, it took me forever to get that good, to do a single lane U-turn like that. I'm not sure how distorted that looks with the super wide view of my GoPro, but for me, that's pretty tight. That's a pretty tight turn for me. So it's something, you know, I'm always working on. You know, like if I didn't know where my friction zone was, I wouldn't be able to, you know, control my bike the way I do now. I worked for a very long time to figure out where this friction zone is, or even like using my rear brake to slow me down and being able to stabilize my bike at very low speeds like this. That took me a while to develop, you know. Working on all these things practicing daily is what's important. So there's a lot of things that I used to not be comfortable with that I'm comfortable now because I'm practicing. If I hit my first, say when I first started teaching myself piano when I was pretty young. Well, my aunt taught me how to read notes, and then after that I started kind of teaching myself. I didn't take like real formal lessons until I went to college. And I'm telling you, when I first did that, it's like I hit a series of roadblocks in learning. It was not easy. I thought that I had like a natural knack for it. I did not until I started practicing. If I decided to give up because it was hard, I would not be able to play the piano the way I do now. Same thing with riding a motorcycle. If I decided to give up when I thought it was too hard, which my first time and actually my only time I've ever dropped my bike was when I first started riding, when I bought that Ninja off of Facebook that I told you about, the Ninja EX500 2006. If I stopped, I would never have been able to keep on going. I came off my driveway, panicked, pulled my brakes in, and fell off my bike. From there, at first I remember I would get on the bike, I would walk it like this. I would be walking it, be like, okay, I gotta get used to this. And you know what I'd do when I got to a turn like this? I was like, oh, I can go straight. When I got to a turn like this, I would slow down so much. I would walk it on the turns because I was scared of turns. You know, I was doing this for weeks. I was doing that in just my, maybe 2 weeks. I was doing that in just right outside, down my driveway, in my cul-de-sac in my neighborhood right there. I was walking my bike around until I got comfortable enough. Now, like if you watch my road glide video, in 1 week I put 1,100 miles on my road glide, all the way to Roanoke, to Richmond, to back, to through West Virginia, through Maryland, and just got very comfortable. You know, before I would be scared to take out one hand off the handlebar. Craziest thing. I can't even imagine being scared of that now. I did this for a little bit. I'd go around the parking lot with one hand on there. You know, it's crazy the things that you can accomplish when you really care about what you're doing, right? I used to never be able to leave my bike that much. I used to be scared of getting my bike that low, you know. So sometimes now I'll practice picking up some speeds where I have to really drop the bike low like this to make some of these turns instead of turning my handlebars. So if I come at this around 15 miles an hour, I'll still be in the friction zone, but instead of turning my handlebars, I'm gonna get the bike low. All the little things I had to do to practice. Let's see if I can get another U-turn as well as I did the one over there earlier. And it's surprising to me how well I can do these U-turns now when I used to not be able to U-turn at all. It wasn't as good, but still good. You know, these are tiny parking spaces, so I would see, at first it would take me almost all these parking spaces to make a U-turn. You know, now, like even at high speeds, I'm gonna see if I can go like three and a half spaces. There we go. You know, right turn from a stop. I go here, handlebars full lock, and then I let go. Sometimes I have to walk it up a little bit while I'm getting used to it still. And if I do that for another 15 minutes today, I'll even get better at this moment, you know. And so like moments when you need these things in the real world, you don't want it to be that once you get in the real world when you need this skill, then all of a sudden that's when you're practicing it. You want to be practicing it when you have the opportunities to practice like this. I'm really bad at right-hand U-turns, so I'll give that a shot here. Right-hand U-turn is my first one today, so here we go. There we go. A little bit over one lane, you know. You want to do it, so I'll do it again up here. Right-hand U-turn. I'm really in that friction zone. Head and eyes were bad. I still made it though. So sometimes, you know, like especially when I'm multitasking, like talking, I'll forget like my basic things. But head and eyes is very important. You want to be able to look. You want to look where you're going to, and then make your turn. Right there we go. Much better. When you're looking where you're going, that's where you go. So these are really important skills. So tight left turn here at speed. So I'm gonna get in my friction zone. Tight left turn. There we go. You know, you want to be able to make all of these movements. And I would say like Robert Simmons, I'm sure if some of y'all watch his videos, he always asks his riders to rate their riding skill, right? I think right now I'm finally at a 1. The slow speed riding skills, I'm finally at a 1. When I first started riding, I'd say I was probably closer to like a 0.2 for the longest time. Then I felt myself getting to 0.3 and 0.4. You know what I want? I want to eventually be able to say, hey, I'm a 4, I'm a 5, I'm a 6, and even up to an 8, which is what Robert Simmons claims his riding skill is, which I really think he's probably like a 9 or a 10, to be honest. You know, like I feel accomplished getting to a 1, but that's my other thought about practice too, is if you already believe you're at the peak of possibility, like every time something goes wrong, you're like, oh, that was because of this, because of that, because of external factors, rather than taking ownership and saying, hey, that's because I didn't practice enough, that's because I'm not good at that skill yet, you're not gonna get better. You probably never in your mind think, oh, I'm a 10 at everything, I'm the best at everything. You probably never really think that, but your actions can show it. If you watch one of your crash videos and you say, oh, that's because this person was dumb, the driver didn't see me, things like that, and you can never be like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, you won't get better. That's one of those things I always say. You have to be able to know that you can get better. And I say that a lot because I'm in my civilian job now, I coach a team, multiple teams. I don't want to talk too much about my job, but I coach multiple teams to accomplish a task. And a lot of times what I see is the most coachable people are the people with the highest performance, which is counterintuitive. You think the people with the lowest performance would be like, oh, we have a lot we can work on, we have a lot that we can improve on. You think they'd be the most coachable? No, those people get stuck at that rate. The people who with the best performance stay the most coachable, and it's very interesting thing to see that's how it works. So the people who are best at what they do are coachable, and they want to continue to improve. They want to realize that they're never going to be at 100% and be the best. So I'll give myself a 1 now, and that's me knowing that I want to eventually get up to the point where I'm doing much better. You know, maybe when I'm a year in, I'll be at a 2 or a 1.5. You know, maybe once I get out of this one riding season, I can comfortably say, hey, I'm a 1.3 now. You know, because I'm still practicing through times like this. And that's the importance of making sure that you always have the mindset to want to practice, that you have the mindset to want to work on yourself, that you have the mindset to not blame external factors on everything. You know, when you can say like, oh, I don't have the job I want because I'm Asian, or, you know, not only am I Asian, I'm Filipino, very third world, backwards Asian country, you know. A lot of derogatory things I could say about the Philippines, but I don't want this video to get taken down. So, not things that I think, but things that are said about the Philippines. You know, what if I use that and been like, hey, I have this disadvantage. I'm a first generation immigrant family. I don't have the advantages that other people have. Imagine if I had those thoughts. Imagine if I thought like that, and I just got stuck where I was, not doing anything. You know, just using that kind of negativity. What if I was like, hey, I got back from Afghanistan, I got injured, I got hurt, I got a TBI, I got PTSD, and I blamed everything, and I held on to those things. You know what that told me when I got back, and I was gonna have these issues, that I was gonna have to work a little bit harder to push towards what I want to be able to do, to have an improved life, to be able to help others, and to be able to work on myself and work on things to make my life better, instead of saying, hey, I'm oppressed in this one thing. And I've said this in a lot of my other videos, probably at least 3 or 4 of my other videos, is this mentality that holds us back, that's creating all these mental issues, is that mentality. And I'm not saying these mental issues aren't real. I'm a psych major, so there's no way I'd ever say that. I am diagnosed with PTSD, causing stress, anxiety, severe anxiety, and depression. Imagine if I lived every day with that mentality that, oh, I'm diagnosed with this. This is all I can do in my life, instead of actually trying to improve and get better and working on myself and realizing that I have to work on those things. I can guarantee if a lot of people, if they got out of this victim mentality, they would do better. Same thing with the bike. If you're gonna blame every rider for the reason that you almost got into an accident, or that you almost crashed, or that you did crash, or that you wrecked your first bike, or that if it's only drivers, like, yeah, the drivers, I assume they don't know what they're doing, I assume they don't see me, I assume all of that. But you know what I do? I maximize my skills so that I'll be good at what I do, so that I can be good at it. because I don't want to have to go through that, you know. I don't want to have to say that. I don't want my wife to have to be like, oh, you know, there goes another. My wife's a nurse, by the way, and the joke they have is motorcycle riders are organ donors. You know, I don't want to be that other organ donor that comes through. You know, I'm gonna get as good as I can, and you know what? Life is not guaranteed, but at the same time, I'm gonna work my best to make sure that I do everything optimally, and that I don't give an opportunity for something to go wrong when I'm on this bike, when, you know, with anything I do. If, you know, like anytime that I've made a mistake on my recitals or anything in the piano, I wasn't like, you know, one of the things I heard a lot, which if you're not a piano player, this won't mean much to you. Oh, the action on that piano was weird and didn't feel like the piano I practiced on. The keys were, the action was lighter, the action was softer, it was more of this and more of that. You know what? I made sure that whatever the piano I was gonna end up doing my recital on, or my final exam on, or anything, that I knew what I had to do so well that I would get better at it. And I did make those mistakes where I'm like, and it would go through my mind for a second, man, if the action was like this, it was like that, I would have played a little bit better. You know what? At the end of the day, I can't control that. I can't say, hey, jurors, which is what they call the people grading your final exam, because it's called a jury, let me play on my piano, because that's what I'm used to playing. No, you play on the piano that's in that room, and you do it, and you do well. You know, I'm not gonna use these excuses to not do better. Same thing with a bike. You know, like I could, you know, when I'm on my road glide and I'm making really bad turns, like, man, this bike is so much harder to maneuver than my street bob. You know, like it's just harder. If I get into an accident, God forbid, or something happens, and I'm not gonna be like, oh man, if I was on my street bob, that wouldn't have happened. Maybe that's true, but then why would I leave that as a possibility? Why would I leave that as a possibility to happen? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get so good on my street bob and my road glide that won't even be a possibility. That either way, whatever I'm on, that it won't be a possibility. And I can guarantee some of you on here that are 4s and 5s and 6s, 7s, maybe even 10s in riding skill are looking at me and being like, man, he's really bad. You know what? Great. Please tell me what I can do to practice to get better, because I want to get better. I don't want to be bad. I do not want to continue to be bad. I want to get better than a 1. I still know that there's a lot of work to do to get better than a 1. You know, like, it's one of those things that I want to continue to work on. Even tightening up this circle. My circle is not as tight as I want it to be when I'm making these circles. But something I'm working on, you know, and I'm going to keep working on it, and I want to keep working on it. So there's a right turn up here that I did earlier that when I first found this series of parking lots over here, I would have an issue kind of getting through it and feeling comfortable getting through this right turn without going down to like 6 miles an hour and everything. But I kept getting better at it. I still probably don't stay in first and second gear. I'll drop it down to 1, like here, and then just kind of make the right turn like this, you know. But I don't have to drop down to like 6 miles an hour and pretty much walk the bike over that turn anymore. You know, like little things like stopping here. I remember sometimes I'd come at it canted and I would be all crooked. But now I practice stopping straight, going straight, and I want to keep getting better at that. And that's why I make these videos for y'all who are learning these skills too, so that I can show you how I worked on it. And I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I'm proficient enough that I feel comfortable when these situations arise in real life situations. I'm comfortable enough to make these maneuvers, you know. And I want to keep getting better at what I'm doing. Yep. And it's funny because this lane is huge compared to the lane in the parking lot. There's something about it when I'm out here, I'm a little bit more nervous to turn to do my U-turns on this road. Let me show you. I'll get on this road over here where less cars come through. So I'm nervous to make, like, look how wide this lane is compared to the one lane between the parking lots. There's something about it that I get nervous making these U-turns. So I'll make sure it's clear behind me and everything. There, and that wasn't even the greatest. It was very wide, but when I'm in this parking lot, I know that I can make that U-turn every single time now, or not every single time, but much better than I did just now. That was a very wide right turn too. See, when I'm not thinking about it, I can still make these big mistakes. So I want to be able to accomplish all these things. I want to keep getting good, and I say that if you're saying you're practicing 1 hour a day, I would look into it. Make sure you're really doing an hour of practice. If you're saying you're practicing 5 minutes a day over a week, I think that's good, because those 5 minutes you have to be focused on practicing, really practicing for those 5 minutes. So I've been riding right now for about 30 minutes. The video of course won't be that long because I'm going to be cutting parts in and out, but I've been practicing for about 30 minutes now. I'm not going to say it's practicing for 30 minutes now. I'd say altogether 8 to 10 minutes, because I've been talking, I've been not really focused on my riding. So that's not real in-depth practice, right? Because I haven't been focused on just the riding. So I think you need to be focused on just your riding. I would say 5 minutes of actual practice 2-3 times a week is better than you saying that you're going out there for an hour a week practicing when you're not really focused on practicing. You got to be focused on your practicing. Right now I'd say I try to get in about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes of practice once a week. And that's in my in these parking lots throughout my neighborhood and all of that. That cumulatively I want to get that much practice in, and I want it to be actual practice each of those times, not just kind of practice, but like practice, where I'm concentrated on what I'm doing, and I'm thinking about riding, and I'm thinking about what I have to do to be a better rider, and I'm really thinking about riding. So very important to frequently, consistently practice if you want to get good at it. You know, like I mentioned in my whole riding video, anytime the weather gets above 30 degrees, I'm going to bring the bike out to practice. Even if it takes 2 weeks till I have to do that again. You know, between those 2 weeks, I'm going to think about what I have to do to get better. I'm going to plan out what I have to do to get better at biking. It translates so well to everything. Look at my first 2, 3, 4 videos on my channel. Look how bad they are. You know what it took to get to the level of the videos I have now, which I'd still say are a 2 or a 3? A lot. It took a lot of thinking about practice, reading articles about video editing, reading articles about what's appealing to audiences, all of that. It took a lot of practice in that sense. So practice overall for everything you're doing is important. It can't be sporadic. It can't be random. There has to be tangible, good things you're working on. There has to be consistency. There has to be persistence, and there has to be that desire to improve. And that you'll notice in overall, you'll do better at whatever you're working on. You'll feel better on whatever mental state you're at the moment. If you're actively working to get yourself to feel better, you'll find yourself excelling at tasks, excelling at whatever skills and talents you have, if you are very dedicated to your practice. And that is the kind of mentality that I want to share. That's the kind of mentality I want everyone to have, to be happier, to be content, to be, you know, comfortable with what they're doing, and just an overall better mentality and a safer rider, because that's my primary thing. Is if you're practicing, you'll be a safer rider, and if you're a safer rider, you'll be happier. So make sure you get out there, you practice, that you care about what we're doing, that you care about everything around you, and that you take personal ownership of whatever situations you come across. And that is something that you will always have to practice, taking that ownership and doing really well. So I hope my ramblings for today have been beneficial for y'all, and that you know, it was something that y'all enjoyed watching. I do eventually want to go actually into some techniques, which means I'll actually have to bring like a tripod out here or something,